Hey, I'm back. I wanted to show you kind of part two on how I think about my schedule. Now, before I go into this, like, well, we always have all these things that we learn along the way, and all of us always stand on the shoulders of giants. So, my idea and how I learned to manage my time a little better and to get more done, even though there's a lot of things kind of out of my control. And when you're in business for yourself, it's really tough because you don't know when your day necessarily ends and you don't stop thinking about your day. And I had to learn how to compartmentalize some certain things. So I want to share, I don't have this written down, but I want to share with you some key things. One, where did I get, some of these ideas? Well, number one, I had the pleasure of working with an amazing business coach. He actually taught home inspectors and he had developed such a successful coaching business. He started working with other service type of business owners and then eventually got into working with speakers and found people like me. There were a few of us little woo-woo types in with this very A-type personality guy who is the Dan Kennedy world, but they really had this great grasp of the body mind connection. And we didn't meet until, much later in life in our 50s, but turned out we had a lot of synchronicities. And one of them was that we were both at Irving Mall on this particular day when this one hypnotist happened to be there at Irving Mall, Irving, Texas, way back in, I think, probably 1977, was there teaching hypnosis and using how to use it for different techniques. And both of us had an incredible experience watching that hypnotist do their business. And he started applying the power of hypnosis to expand his mind. I had always had an interest in it, but then I started looking at it on how to heal my emotions. And so just so many beautiful little intersections. And turned out we knew a lot of the same people by the time we met. But the point is, one of the things that he really talked about was having a 2-week success calendar. And in that 2-week period, to name the particular times that you're working on. So the way he showed us his schedule was every Monday morning is thinking time. The third Thursday of every month is date night. The second Tuesday of every month is family night. And so everything had a particular time. And so by naming those times and keeping it dedicated and putting it on the calendar was a big key to his success. He wasn't having to catch time to take time to think about his business, to analyze, to vision or dream. Now, I had been doing that to some degree. Mondays, I realized when I was starting my business, that's not a good day to be reaching out to business because they're all just starting back on their business. So Monday became my planning day. Tuesday became a communication day. Well, I don't know if you remember in one of the past classes, Remy, who's an astrologer, said, yeah, there are key days, key times that is your ideal time to do things that work with the atmosphere. And Tuesday is a natural communication day. So that was my outreach day. But the first Tuesday of every month was when I gave my information talk at a particular location. Then every Tuesday night was dedicated to some other place that I was going to be giving it an information talk. Even though I didn't have it in my calendar yet, as soon as I found a place available, I always tried to book for Tuesday night. That way, if I met anyone out and around, it wasn't like, well, on the 14th, this is happening. The 19th, this is happening. It's like, hey, every Tuesday I'm speaking someplace. I'm going to get you on my calendar. And then that way, if I met anyone during the week, I always knew where I could invite them for either this coming Tuesday or the next, right? The other thing that I did and that Mike taught me was so that I could set up a regular revenue cycle. I set up my classes to be on the third week of each month. Now, at the time when I started my business, I taught a 3-day certification class that ran from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the third weekend of every month, I had that scheduled. You know why? Because I didn't want to worry about rent on the first. And I collected deposits. So usually by the 15th of the month, I had my rent covered. And that was a big step for me because if you know my history, I worked in the apartment industry for a long time. And so being able to know that I could count on a regular revenue for rent was really very super high worry priority for me. So that's why I set it up. Then I said, well, when can I do my one command circles? Well, initially I knew I wanted to have some type of circle event, and I first had healing circles, and it was all around creating these events. But then the other thing that I paid attention to was, hey, every 2 times a year there's a holistic fair. Every month there's a particular meeting that I want to make sure that I go to. And then I started tracking those, and those went onto my calendar. And then my appointment days were always the same days. So my main appointment day was always Friday, and then usually from Thursday afternoon to Friday. And then if I had overflow, I allowed it to be on Saturday morning. But I tried to keep it to where I was doing that. The reason for that was so that I could protect my bandwidth. The work I do is very deep. I go into theta a lot. I need to be able to take care of my body. I can't have a lot of going up and down and switching out of that. I find that I feel very frazzled and I get tired. So if I get to just stay in that mental space all day long, I find that I have a lot less friction. Okay. So Mike was the one that really reinforced what I was intuitively doing, but started naming it. So there's Mike. The next person that was a big influencer for me was I had the chance to meet Natalie Cook, who is a gold medal winner for the women's volleyball. She was an Australian volleyball champion, gold medal winner in the Olympics. And she gave this incredible talk. And she said the way that the high performing athletes performed or took care of themselves, and they looked at their schedule. They said they knew if they had a big goal, the first thing before they even started their training schedule was they scheduled all of their self-care. Now, I don't know about you, but I always put my self-care on the back end. And in fact, learning to prioritize exercise and walking and going to the gym, that was not part of my normal day. I had that associated with play. And guess what? You don't get to play until your work's done, right? That's the way I was raised. I was very strong work ethic. But, when you're in business for yourself, your day's never quite over. And unless you take care of yourself first, you're not going to have enough left over to get. You're not going to have the energy you need. You're not going to have anything to give your ideal clients or your family or anything left over for yourself. You're just going to walk around in this big energy deficit. And take it from me, someone that burned herself right at both ends and tried to burn the middle of that candle, you do not want to operate that way. So I had to really rethink my self-care routine and to put that first. And in that way, as I go in the training and I knew that there would be these times that I would be pushing myself, I'd have the resources built in. It would already be in my schedule. It wouldn't have to be anything that I had to fill up and catch up on. And that just giving myself permission and making my self-care as important as the work, for me, mentally, that was a big mind shift, and it really created big healing in my life. And it even affected when I realized, hey, I'm not even putting myself enough first to plan for my own food. And so I'm eating out too much, and that was keeping me broke. I wasn't putting me and my needs in my own schedule. Okay, I was putting results in my schedule. So once you learn to do that, you will change everything. So here's there's going to be one more I wanted to tell you about that came from, but first let's look at this schedule here and kind of what my priorities are. And this is kind of loosely based on what I've got going here. This has changed. This schedule's about probably a year old, but Monday is my planning day. Okay, Monday is planning day, and then but basically at 7 in the morning, this is my best time to be writing and doing my work. So I always start off with writing. At the time of this, I was running a pretty constant 30-day challenge. So I wanted to start that at 8 a.m. because that was part of the work time. And then I wanted to make sure I had time to do whatever posts and emails. So my most productive time of the day is morning. That's when I have the most energy. Okay. Then I had to put in, you're going to see something interesting, right? You're looking at that chaos. But for me, time to go on walks and go to the pool was very important. And in fact, I wound up going to the pool at least 3 times a week and going for walks every day. And probably adding a 15-minute walk where I went to a local park and I walked my dog around rather than just letting him out in the yard was probably the best thing I could have done. But now this became as important. This wasn't I hope to get to the pool today once I get my work done. I've got to get on my work done because I've got to get to the pool at 10. That became the change. Then I have my appointment schedule, and then I have any phones and email follow-ups after that. That's already built in. And then living at my daughter's house, we've got this family big wedge of time of getting dinner ready, eating, and afterwards. And so first it was really, pushing in on me, and it wasn't part of my regular schedule. So I had to put it on my calendar to remember not to book or schedule things. You'll see over here that we have our family movie night. This is written in stone. This does not change. It has to be really something extraordinary for us not to have this time together. This is really a big part of our family. This was some regular meetings that we were doing at the time that was outside of my schedule, but I needed to be able to do this every time. And this had to do with, I think it had to do with the farmer's market. Okay. And then Big Vision, Commanding Wealth. This was my weekly circle. Okay. But I bet you're curious about this chaos thing. Where the heck would that come from? Why are we talking about it? Well, it comes from this system, and I do not own this system. I do not earn any commission from this, but there is a website called psychotactics.com, and I will put the link here in the comment bar, but I will also make sure that there's a link in the membership area. But in the chaos planning system, they break things down to these 15-minute chunks that you can get a lot more done in these 15-minute chunks. And one of the things that most people don't plan on is the interruptions. And I was getting knocked off my schedule all the time because of chaos. Now, this does not mean that every Wednesday and Saturday that I would schedule time to freak out and mess up my whole house, though I could, I guess, if I wanted to. What this means is that this chaos time and these 2 chunks that I had, basically I put in 4 hours into my week on Wednesdays and Saturdays to play catch up for anything that I might have gotten interrupted in. Okay, so let's say that I was planning on writing an article, but instead I had to suddenly go take care of something, or maybe I had to go to a doctor that day instead of sitting down and doing the writing that I wanted to. Well, that knocked me out of my regular schedule, so I used my chaos time to go ahead and fix that. That's what I do. Let's say that I had a chance after all of some posts and emails, I started getting a lot of feedback, but I really didn't have time to take care of it. So I can put it into my chaos time. If there was a meeting that I attended, let's say I went to a networking event, and then that took away from appointment time, then I could move some of my appointment time over to my chaos time. That way I'm building these holes into my schedule. Okay. Now, some of the samples of some of the things that you want to put on your schedule is self-care, time for personal fulfillment, like my prayer and meditation time, very important. But also this could be the times that you're doing community work, but anything that's personally fulfilling, your family obligations, business obligations, creative time, your regular work hours. You want to put your marketing time in there, not like, well, I just market when, I notice, we get this cycle in sales. And what happens is we market, then we make the sale, then we spend all our time delivering it, but then we're not marketing. To be in business, you've got to be marketing all the time, and you've got to be in a sales process all the time. You've got to make it real, it's got to be on your calendar. Then you've got your appointment hours and chaos. But then there's anything else that you want to put on there. So that's how I think about it. So after I've done all the visioning, then I would come back and go, okay, what are my parameters? What's realistic to work in? Now, I don't stop myself, but what's wonderful is I narrow the focus. So narrowing your focus is very different than stopping yourself. And the other thing is, then once you're working on it and you realize, well, this is what I want to do, and we get all of this creativity, then you're going to wonder, well, when do I do it? When's the right time? Well, then you can make the decision like, hey, is now the right time? Or is this something I do later? Or am I just going to think about this? That's fun to think about, but I'm going to write it down because I want to capture it. Maybe that'll be something way in the future, or it's something that could get turned into an opportunity to sell. Like I've got a client that's got a very valuable commodity to sell, very valuable. And she let me know that if I helped her get it sold, if I sent her a referral, I'd make a very nice living on it. I'd make a very nice referral fee on it. And I go, yeah, that would be really cool. But then I had to look at my goals, right? And go, I really don't know how that would work, but that's fun to think about. And I'm going to keep that in the mix, but it's not a priority. It's not anything that goes on my calendar. I'm not going to dedicate any time to it. I want to keep to my commitment to the things I can do now to get the goals that I want. What I'm thinking about later, what I'm talking about is, yeah, I really do want to have a podcast, but before I get the podcast, let's get these elements put in. So I might get a burst of inspiration and some creativity around that. I'm going to write it down, but I'm not going to necessarily take action on it. But an interesting thing happens, your actions start unconsciously aligning to that goal that's down there. And then you can say, well, once I accomplish this, once I accomplish this, once I accomplish this. So that's how I look at my calendar. That's how I think about my time. I've shown you the great big time one. I've shown you more of that microcosm of how I'm taking care of my week. Okay. But the thing is, you really want to come in from the authority of being the one who wants to create specific results, and what actions can you take to cause that to happen, and to think about your ability to move around and experience your perception of time in different ways so that you can accomplish your goals a lot faster. So I hope this is helpful. I'd love to get your questions and comments around that. So be sure and share that with me. With that, I'm going to end this part of the presentation.